President Trump has fulfilled one campaign promise. He said he would unite our country, and this is the one thing he has accomplished. He has united environmentalists, gun violence opponents, healthcare advocates, Muslims, Haitians, Hispanics, and the entire religious community who seek to use religion to build bridges of love rather than walls of hate and separation. And he has united women like never before, who along with all the rest of us believe that a woman has the right to control over her own body and autonomy over her own reproductive system. As an abortion rights attorney who had the privilege of representing the National Organization for Women in Palm Beach County and obtained a permanent injunction against Operation Oppress You, or as they call it, Operation Rescue, and who prevailed over Pat Robertson and his Americans for Law and Justice, I am well acquainted with a misguided effort to deny a woman's right to choose, and I am also aware of the case of In Re TW, in which the Florida Supreme Court ruled that the right to bodily integrity and the right to decide when to bring life into this world and how we will depart from this world are the two most fundamental rights that exist in this state. However, a right which cannot be exercised is not a right, it is an illusion. Thus, it is outrageous that a bunch of white males who owe their lives to women who made a decision to bring them into this world seek to deny the right of women to decide when they wish to bring life into the world. Men and women, those from free and anti-choice states, those of every religion and every walk of life, are prepared to engage in the greatest civil rights protest this country has ever seen since the civil rights era. Unless all are free, none are free. And we will join forces to protect a woman's right to choose as we seek to abort President Trump's term of office in order to save our nation from disaster. It is ironic that the same people who wish to force women to give birth against their will and who profess great concern for the fetus turn their back on the baby once it is born by eliminating the safety net and social programs that give the child a chance to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. With their radical agenda to protect the fetus and their complete disregard for those once they are born, and who are depriving their parents of any means to support their children, these people act as if life begins at conception and ends at birth. It is a great misconception to claim that upon conception a fertilized ovum is a human being, entitled to equal status with living and breathing humans. To confuse an ovum with a human being is like confusing an egg with a chicken, an acorn with an oak tree, or the blueprints to a house with a house itself. If I burn the blueprints to a house, I have not committed arson. While it is true that somewhere along the way the fetus becomes more and more human, rather than just a potential human being entitled to rights, it takes rational thought to determine when this occurs, which the anti-choice people seem incapable of adding to the discussion, saying that a fetus is a human being from the time of conception. Most of the people behind this effort are fundamentalist Christians who do not favor culture, but a cult of death, in which they await breathlessly the wonderful day when they will ascend to heaven, and almost everyone they know, and those who do not believe exactly like they do, will be turned to ash and then suffer eternal torment. The fact that they eagerly anticipate such a time indicates the abject moral depravity of those who hold this view, and explain how they can hold women in such contempt that they have no qualms about denying their rights. In the course of my litigation against abortion protesters, they revealed that a major reason for their opposition to abortion is not out of any concern for the fetus, but rather is based on a sick desire to punish women for engaging in sexual activity for pleasure, both in or out of wedlock. And if contraception and abortion was available, these people think that they would engage in sexual activities that they consider improper. These moral police, these Trump supporters want government off our back and into a woman's womb. How dare a bunch of white Christian males impose their religiously inspired misogyny on the women of this country? We call upon the vast majority of rational, kind Christians to join people of good faith of all religions, to speak out against those who would use the example of Jesus not to liberate, but to shackle the lives of others. Jesus and all of Jewish scripture have no laws against abortion, even though it was known and practiced in biblical days, because the Bible viewed life as beginning at birth. and thus Jewish teaching did not restrict a woman's right to choose. In fact, in biblical days, abortion was not only permissible, it was mandatory if the psychological or physical health of the mother was at stake. So if the anti-choice radicals want to ban abortions, let them claim to do this in their own name and leave Jesus and the Bible out of it. You do not speak for God. You do not speak for Americans. You do not speak for women. You do not speak for anyone other than yourself. To prevent abortion, even in the case of rape and incest, is to compound an outrage against a woman with another outrage, imposed this time not by a rapist but by the state, by forcing a woman, or in many cases a young girl, to give birth to the child of her abuser. We must never stand for such an affront to justice and the dignity of women. Those who wish to force parenthood upon women against their will, with no consequences for men who engendered life also, should not call their position pro-life. Since if we were to go back to the days when abortion was illegal, it would lead to the death and harm of many women. Rather, they should call themselves pro-lie, unless they support gun control, protection of our planet, the source of all life, unless they fight for universal health care, unless they work to free prisoners who are wrongly accused, unless they try to help the immigrants who are losing their lives today, and unless they oppose genocide wherever it occurs, unless they become vegetarians, and unless they agree to adopt those babies who are born to parents who are unable or unwilling to care for them, who they want to force into this world. This week, in the Torah, we read the immortal words inscribed on the Liberty Bell of this country: "Proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof." Let us proclaim liberty for all women, freedom from misguided religious zealots, and freedom for all Americans. As a rabbi, a civil rights attorney, a former legislator, a father, and an American, I call upon people of all religions and all backgrounds to join together as one in defense of women everywhere in every state, to fight for the right of those who undergo the physical labors of pregnancy and childbirth to determine when and under what circumstances they wish to bring life into this world. Remember the iconic words of Margaret Mead, who said, "Never doubt that a small group of dedicated people can change the world. It is the only thing that ever has." Come join with us on Tuesday evening at 5 o'clock at the Delray Courthouse to prevent Alabama from becoming Alabama and to prevent Missouri from becoming misery, as we proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof, including the women.